Sound familiar? You rock up to your favorite spot, throw out the same bait that's worked for years, but nothing. Not a single touch. It's like the fish have just vanished. Meanwhile, the bloke next to you is hauling them in one after another. What's the go? Today we're talking about the absolute biggest rookie mistake that 90% of fishos make when mixing scents and additives. It's the kiss of death that turns your perfect bait into a repellent. I reckon after this video you'll be looking at your tackle bag in a whole new light and finally figure out why you've been coming home empty-handed lately. By the way, drop a comment right now and let us know, what's your go-to scent for a day on the water? I'm sure there are plenty of us on the same page. All right, let's get into the basics. Why do scents even matter? For a fish, their sense of smell is a key survival tool.
In murky water where they can't see a thing, it's their nose that leads them straight to the tucker. Tackle shops know this, which is why the shelves are packed with hundreds of bottles, everything from strawberry and plum to garlic and monster crab. But all this choice has created a bit of a trap. The idea that the more complex and intense the smell, the better. We're told to keep experimenting, mixing, and cooking up secret recipes. And that's exactly where things go pear-shaped. Anglers, especially those just starting out, start pouring everything but the kitchen sink into their burley bucket, committing the one huge mistake we're about to dive into right now. The quickest way to mess up your session is falling for that more is better trap. It's a classic mistake. We reckon if a bit of strawberry dip works, then tossing in some pineapple booster and a splash of creamy syrup will make it 3 times as good. But nah, that's not how it works. Think about it like this. Imagine someone hands you a meat pie, but then they go and dump a spoon of honey, some curry powder, and a heap of chocolate sauce on top. You wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, would you? Well, the fish feel the exact same way. Their senses are tuned to find specific food signals. When you throw all that junk at them, it just blows their receptors out. Instead of a clear dinner's ready signal, they're getting a loud, messy warning that says something's not right here, might be dangerous. This is the golden rule, mates. Overloading your bait with different scents is the fastest way to spook every fish in the area. You're not attracting them. You're creating a chemical danger zone they'll avoid like the plague. Just remember, less is always more. One clean, simple scent will outfish a messy, loud cocktail every single day of the week. Keep it simple, and you'll actually land something. Let's take a proper look at the chemistry behind it all. What actually happens when you start mixing different scents? Well, you're basically starting a chemical war right there in your burley bucket. Most attractants are built on different bases. You've got your alcohol-based ones, your oil-based ones, and then your glycerine. Each one does its own thing. Alcohol hits the water and dissolves fast, putting out a massive scent trail, but it's over pretty quick. Oils are the dead opposite. They don't want to mix with the water at all. They just stick to the burley and create a thin film on the surface. Then you've got glycerine, the middle ground. It's sweet, thick, and sticky. The mistake most blokes make is just chucking them together. If you mix an alcohol attractant with an oil-based dip, you aren't getting the best of both worlds. They can actually react and create a brand new smell that's completely unpredictable. Or even worse, they can cancel each other out. The oil can lock in the alcohol scent, stopping it from spreading through the water. So you end up with burley that smells heaps strong while it's sitting on the bank, but once it hits the water, it does absolutely nothing. That's the real sin, mixing stuff that doesn't go together without knowing how it works. You aren't boosting the signal for the fish, you're just mucking it up or killing it off entirely. Another massive blue is completely ignoring the natural whiff of your burley. Plenty of fishos forget that their main mix, whether it's ground bait, pellets, grain or boilies, already has its own organic scent. fresh corn, nutty tones, or that fish meal pong. These are the smells fish actually know and trust as real tucker. When you go and drench that natural base in heaps of harsh synthetic chemicals, you're basically cutting off the dinner bell. It's like you're shouting at the fish, "Oi, this isn't food, it's a setup." Instead of just giving the natural aroma a bit of a boost, you're masking it completely. The secret is synergy, not a takeover. If you're using a fish meal-based mix, it makes sense to sharpen it up with a hint of crab or squid, rather than drowning it in some crazy tutti-frutti concentrate. You want to make that natural scent more tempting, not replace it with something totally alien.
And at the end of the day, your job is to convince the fish they've found the tastiest, most natural meal in the drink, not a bloody perfume shop on the seafloor.
Righto, let's have a yarn about the classic showdown. Sweet versus spicy. It's one of the biggest blunders blokes make when they're mixing up a batch. A fishos takes a sweet, fruity scent, say plum, and reckons he'll beef it up by throwing in something stinky like garlic or squid. The logic seems simple enough. If the fish like both, they'll love 'em together, right? Well, in reality, it's a bloody train wreck. These scents are on totally different ends of the spectrum. It just confuses the hell out of the fish. Think about it. Would you want strawberry jam on a piece of pickled herring? Sounds rank, doesn't it? Well, the fish reckon the same. You don't find those combos in the wild. So to a fish, it's a massive red flag. Now, that doesn't mean you can't mix your scents. You just got to be smart about it. You can pair up different fruits, like plum and pineapple, or stick to the spice rack with pepper and coriander. You can even get away with mixing sweets with some nutty or creamy notes. But mixing radically different worlds, like fruit and fish, or sweets and hot spices, is a guaranteed way to end up with a doughnut day. It's like trying to mash up an opera with heavy metal. You're not going to get a hit song, you're just going to get a massive headache. One thing heaps of fishos overlook is how much the water temp changes the game with your scents. What's an absolute ripper in the summer might be a total waste of time once the winter chill sets in. In the warmer months, when the fish are active and their metabolism is peaking, they're after a quick energy hit. That's when the sweet, fruity stuff like strawberry, banana, or tutti frutti really does the business. But as soon as that water cools down, everything shifts. The fish slow right down and start looking for a proper, high-protein feed. That's when you want to be hitting the spices, garlic, krill, or squid. The biggest mistake you can make is trying to mix your seasons. Don't go adding a splash of strawberry to a spicy mix in the middle of winter just to sweeten it up. To a fish, that smells dodgy and completely unnatural. They're hunting for protein, and that sweet signal just confuses them and puts them on edge. Bottom line is, always adapt your scents to the time of year and the water temp. Don't go looking for a magic mix that works all year round, because fair dinkum, it doesn't exist. It's easy to forget that every bit of water has its own unique smell. A tannin-stained lake smells worlds away from a sandy river or a muddy farm dam. To the fish, that natural scent is just home. It's familiar, and it's where they feel safe. When we toss our gear in, the scent of the bait starts mixing with the water's natural vibe, and that's where plenty of fishos make a mistake. If you use something too harsh or chemical, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. It practically screams fake. Think about it. If you're fishing a silty pond full of organic decay, the smell of a worm or a bit of bloodworm feels right at home. But hit it with a blast of artificial pineapple and you'll likely just spook 'em. The real trap is trying to drown out the natural smell of the water with some heavy-duty attractant. Instead, you want your scent to blend in, just a subtle nudge to let 'em know there's an easy feed nearby. Before you go mixing up your burley, take a moment, smell the water, have a sniff of the mud on the bank, Figure out what the water is telling you and pick a scent that works with the environment, not against it. Let's look at scent overload from the fish's perspective for a sec. We've touched on this before, but you've got to understand how the mechanics actually work. A fish's nose isn't just a nose, it's a high-precision chemical sensor. It can pick up the tiniest trace of a substance from ages away. It's how they find a feed and stay clear of danger. Now imagine you dump a massive, concentrated cocktail of boosters right into your swim. To a fish, that's like a flashbang going off right next to its head. It's not just loud, it's deafening. It triggers an instant shock response. Instead of coming over to see what's on the menu, the fish just bolts from the epicenter of that chemical blast. It can't process the signal because it's way too intense and totally unnatural. Think of it like this. You're out in the bush trying to catch the scent of some wildflowers, and suddenly someone shoves a bottle of industrial-strength ammonia right under your nose. You aren't going to stay and look for flowers. You're going to jump back 10 feet. That's exactly what happens underwater when we commit the sin of over-flavoring. We aren't drawing them in. We're hitting them with an invisible wall that sends them packing in a panic. Listen up, because there's a massive concept most fishos completely overlook: the cloud versus the core. These are two totally different ways to use scents, and if you mix them up, you're doing yourself no favors. First, you've got cloud scents. These are your light, fast-moving liquids, usually alcohol-based. Their whole job is to dissolve quick and create a massive scent trail around your spot. It's like a dinner bell that calls the fish in from way out in the sticks. Think of your sprays and thin boosters you chuck in your burley mix. Then you've got the core. This is the heavy gear, thick, sticky stuff, usually oil or glycerine-based. And these are built to hang around on your hook bait or sit tight in the feed on the bottom. The goal here is to hold the fish right where you want them by giving off a dead set, eat me signal right at the hook. We're talking your thick dips and glugs. The biggest mistake you can make is mucking these two up. If you pour a thick, oily dip into your burley, hoping for a cloud, it's just going to clump your mix together and sit on the bottom like a lead balloon. On the flip side, if you just give your hook bait a quick spray with a light mist, it'll wash off in seconds and be gone before a fish even looks at it. You've got to keep them separate. Know what you're using to draw them in from a distance, and know what you're using to make them strike. If your strategy is a bit of a dog's breakfast, you aren't going to catch half as much as you should. Keep it clear, keep it smart, and you'll bag out in no time. Right, let's clear something up. Let's bust this myth of the secret supermix. A lot of fishos reckon there's some magic combo out there with 10 different scents that'll make any fish go nuts. They spend years and a hell of a lot of cash mixing up every bottle on the shelf hoping to find that holy grail. But honestly, it doesn't exist. The more complex you make your mix, the more unpredictable it becomes. You've got no way of knowing which of those 10 scents worked, or which one actually ruined the spot. Plus, the more gear you throw in there, the more likely those smells are going to clash. Successful fishing isn't about being a chemist. It's about watching and learning. Instead of mixing some crazy cocktail, it's way more effective to stick to 1, maybe 2 proven scents. That way, you know exactly what the fish are hitting on. No bites? Swap one for another and see what happens. If you've got 10 different smells in the water, you're just guessing. Keep it simple. That's the secret to a good haul, not chasing some myth that was never real in the first place. All right, mates, let's dive back into the nitty-gritty and look at what actually goes into your essences. If you want to stop making mistakes, you've got to nail the basics. It all boils down to the big 3: alcohol, glycerin, and oil. First up, alcohol bases. These beauties are top-notch because they dissolve in the water no matter the temp. They kick off a massive scent cloud almost instantly. The downside, they wash away just as quick. They're spot on for your sprays or for chucking into a spod mix when you need to pull fish in from a distance. Next, we've got glycerin. This stuff is sweet and thick. It still dissolves well, just a bit slower than alcohol. It gives your bait some extra weight and adds a nice sweet kick, perfect for adding to your base mix or for soaking your hook baits. Then there's oil. Now we all know oil and water don't mix. It coats your bait and lets the scent out real slow. It leaves a thin film on the surface, making it the go-to for cold water and for hook baits that need to stay smelly for the long haul. But here's the golden rule. Never mix them in the same jar. You chuck alcohol and oil together, and you'll end up with a separated mess that'll act completely unpredictable. Don't try and play chemist by mixing different bases. Stick to using them separately for their specific jobs. Easy as.
Look, not many fishos really stop to think about the clock, but the truth is, your burley's scent isn't a static thing. It's constantly evolving. That mix you've prepped on the bank might smell completely different after an hour or two in the drink. The moment you start blending different components, you're basically flying blind. Every aromatic ingredient has its own lifespan. Those light, zesty notes wash away first to create that initial come hither signal. But the heavier, more stubborn stuff, that sticks to your feed much longer. Think of it like a symphony that keeps changing its tune. You might start with a lovely fruity vibe, but once those top notes vanish, you could be left with a harsh, chemical aftertaste sitting on the bottom. A fish follows that first pleasant whiff, gets to your spot, and then, dead set, it hits a scent that turns it right off. When you mix too many essences, you lose control of the process.
But if you stick to one clean quality aroma, you know exactly how it's going to behave over time. You can be certain it won't throw any nasty surprises at the fish or your session. Another classic blunder you'll see is trying to please every fish in the water at once. I'm talking about targeting different species with a single scent mix. Say a fisho wants to land both bream and carp. He knows bream love coriander and carp are suckers for strawberry, so he tosses both into the burley thinking he'll bag the lot. In reality, it's usually a total fizzer. You'll end up with bugger all. See, you're just sending out mixed signals. Every species has its own taste, evolved over time. When you mix scents meant for different fish, you get a mess that's neither here nor there. It's just not tempting for a bream or a carp. On top of that, you'll probably attract the wrong crowd. Those super sweet aromas can bring in clouds of tiny bait stealers that won't let the big fellas get anywhere near your hook. Your best bet is to pick a target and stick to the scents they actually go for.
If you really want to chase different species, prep 2 separate mixes or switch your gear up mid-session. Just don't try to whip up some weird fruit salad for every fish in the creek. Не забывай про визуал, дружище. Мы хоть и трем тут за запахи, но когда ты мешаешь всякую химию, это напрямую влияет на цвет и текстуру твоей прикормки. В одних дипах и бустерах полно ядреных красителей. Всякие там флуоресцентные, красные, желтые или зеленые. Другие же, особенно на масле, могут быть темными и мутными. Если ты бахнешь ярко-желтый ананасовый бустер в темно-коричневый дип со вкусом кальмара, на выходе получишь насадку цвета грязной жижи из болота. А рыба, она не слепая, особенно в чистой воде. Цвет решает. Яркий поп-ап должен гореть на дне, чтобы привлекать внимание, а натуральная зерносмесь должна и выглядеть естественно. Если ты превратишь ее в непонятное грязное пятно, это может просто спугнуть рыбу. К тому же густые сиропы меняют механику прикормки. Она становится липкой, как пластилин, и перестает правильно работать в воде.
Так что, когда начинаешь химичить с ликвидами, думай не только о том, как это пахнет, но и как это будет выглядеть на дне. Иногда лучше взять бесцветную аромку, чтобы не портить всю эстетику и не пугать трофей. Think of water temperature as the boss of the underwater scent show. It's what really pulls the strings on how smells travel and how the fish pick them up. If you ignore it, you're basically fishing blind. When the water's warm, those molecules are buzzing, so scents travel faster and hit way harder. That's why in the peak of summer, a tiny bit of attractant goes a massive way, but when it gets cold, everything stalls. Diffusion slows right down and smells barely move at all. To get a result in the chili stuff, you need something alcohol-based that'll actually dissolve in the cold, or you've got to be dead accurate with your dosage. The biggest mistake you can make is sticking to your summer routine when it's freezing. If you drop an oil-based dip into icy water, it'll just thicken up and trap the smell inside, doing absolutely nothing for you. On the flip side, if you use a heavy-duty alcohol attractant in the summer heat like you would in the spring, it'll be such an aromatic punch in the face that you'll scare off every fish in the area. Mixing different types of scents only makes things more unpredictable. So always check your thermometer and match your scent to the conditions. It's the only way to make sure your bait is actually doing its job. One thing a lot of fishos overlook is the harmony between your hook bait and your burley. You might spend ages prepping a perfectly balanced burley trail with a subtle, inviting scent, only to go and whack a bait on the hook that's been soaked in some nuclear-strength dip with a totally different smell. Think about it from the fish's perspective. It follows your trail right to the dinner table, but then finds a single bait that's screaming a completely different, unnatural scent. To a wary fish, that's a massive red flag. It's a dead giveaway that something's not right. The smart play is making your hook bait a natural extension of your burley. It needs to smell the same, maybe just a bit more punchy, so it stands out as the prize among the rest. That's what a proper feeding program is all about. Mixing scents just blows the whole plan apart. You're giving the fish two conflicting signals, which just makes them spooky and cautious. Always aim to keep your bait and burley in the same family. They should work together, not fight each other. Get that right, and you're on the money. Now let's talk about the human factor. As fishos, we tend to pick scents based on what we like, stuff like vanilla, caramel, or fresh fruit. We subconsciously project our own tastes onto the fish, thinking they'll love the same things we do. But that's a massive mistake. See, for a fish, a scent isn't about enjoyment. It's pure data about their next meal. Plenty of smells that we find pleasant are completely alien in the underwater world. That heavy, sweet vanilla scent might not come across as food at all. It might just seem like some weird artificial chemical. The biggest mistake you can make is humanizing the fish. You've got to try and think like one. What's actually on the menu in this specific spot? Is it bloodworms, shellfish, weed, or maybe some native fruit dropping into the drink? Those are the scents that feel natural and safe to them. Sure, the synthetic stuff works, but usually not because it's a perfect copy of nature. It works because it triggers specific receptors. That's why the dosage is so important. If you go too heavy on a scent just because it smells nice to you, it can turn into a chemical warning for the fish. So when you're picking an attractant, don't ask yourself, do I like this smell? Ask yourself, is a fish actually going to understand this? And is it going to find it attractive in these conditions? Let's look at a classic stuff-up, trying to mix tutti frutti with squid and octopus. Now these are two legends in the carp world. One's a sweet, fruity hit, the other's a pungent, fishy punch. It's tempting to think that by mashing them together you're creating some kind of magic bait for every situation. But in the real world, it's a total non-starter. See, you're trying to blend two completely different vibes, carbs and protein, to a carp that just doesn't smell natural. On top of that, they're meant for different conditions. Tutti Frutti is your go-to for warm water when the fish are active and chasing a quick energy boost. But squid? That's your heavy hitter for the cold months when they're looking for serious protein. By mixing them, you aren't getting the best of both worlds. You're actually making a bait that performs worse than either one would on its own. In the summer, that fishy scent can be way too heavy, and in the winter, the fruit just feels out of place. It's a classic case of overcomplicating things and ending up with a mess. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Use the right tool for the right time, and you'll bag a lot more fish. So we've talked about overdoing the scents, but let's look at the flip side, the power of keeping it low-key. Sometimes the best attractant is actually, well, basically nothing at all. When a spot's been absolutely flogged and the fish are being hammered with heaps of smelly burley from every direction, they get real skittish. Anything that smells too loud or unnatural starts to look like a trap. In those spots, the bloke who goes natural is usually the one who walks away with the catch. A bit of burley that just smells like fresh grain, or a hook bait with a tiny, subtle hint of nuttiness, is often the secret. To the fish, that's safe, honest tucker. Now, this doesn't mean you have to ditch the additives completely. It just means you've got to learn the art of the microdose. We're talking a few drops for a whole bucket of mix. You want just a faint trail, a little hint that sparks their curiosity, rather than a massive scent that screams danger. The biggest mistake most fishos make is not knowing when to stop. They keep pouring it in, terrified it won't be enough when they've actually gone way past the limit. Learn to trust the natural smell of your quality ingredients. Most of the time, that's more than enough to get the job done. So what happens if you've gone a bit overboard and realized you've nuked your burley with way too much scent? Is there any way to save it? Well, sometimes you can actually bring it back from the dead. The simplest way is to dilute it. If your mix is smelling way too strong, just chuck in an equal amount of plain base mix with no extra flavors. That'll cut the scent right back. Give it a real good mix and let it sit for a bit so the aroma settles down. Now, if you've been a bit too heavy-handed with the liquid attractant while mixing, try adding some dry, absorbent stuff like breadcrumbs, crushed biscuits, or even powdered milk. These will soak up the extra liquid and help balance the smell out. But let's be honest, these are just emergency fixes. If you've mixed a bunch of scents that just don't go together, you're probably fighting a losing battle. If they've already reacted badly, it's better to just bin the lot and start a fresh batch. The best way to deal with a disaster is to avoid it in the first place. So next time, take it slow and steady with the scents. To wrap up the main bit, I want to leave you with one simple, fair, dinkum golden rule. This is for anyone just starting out or anyone feeling a bit lost with too many bottles in their tackle box. It's called the rule of one. For a whole season, better yet, make it two. Just stick to one, maybe two top shelf scents. Grab a sweet, fruity one for the summer heat and a spicy or fishy one for when it starts to cool down, and that's it. Stick with them. Your goal isn't to find some magic potion, it's to learn exactly how that one scent ticks. Play with the dosage, hit different spots, and see how the fish react when the weather turns. Keep a diary of what happens. That's the only way you'll ever really get a feel for how attractants work. You'll start to develop a gut instinct for the right amount and know exactly when it's working and when it's not. Once you've mastered that one ingredient, then you can slowly bring in a second, knowing exactly how they'll play together. Jumping from one bottle to the next and mixing everything at once is just a recipe for chaos. You won't learn a thing that way. Mastery is all about nailing the basics. Keep it simple, do the work, and the results will follow. Cheers. Righto, let's wrap this up. We've covered a fair bit today, but it all boils down to one simple point. The biggest mistake you can make when mixing essences isn't using a specific combo, it's just going in without a plan. It's that trap of thinking the more complex the better. In reality, the secret lies in balance, moderation, and actually understanding the conditions you're fishing in. We've seen how different bases can clash chemically and how mixing gear like fruit and spice can end up scaring the fish off instead of bringing them in. Sometimes the best scent is no scent at all. Hopefully, next time you're looking at your shelf of attractants, you won't just see a bunch of random smells, but a toolkit that needs to be used with a bit of common sense. Cheers for sticking around till the end. If this helped you out, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more fishing tips. Hit the bell to stay in the loop. Now, I want to hear from you. What's the weirdest combo you've ever tried that either killed it or failed miserably? Drop your stories in the comments and let's get a chat going.